So, even though we're more than 10 hours away from the trade, I still can't believe the Kings traded Tyrese Haliburton. So the trade was that the Kings got Sabonis, Jeremy Lamb, Justin Holiday, and a second-round pick, and the Pacers got Tyrese Haliburton, Buddy Hield, and Tristan Thompson. And yeah, I just can't believe the Kings traded Haliburton. He's 21 years old. He's one of the most efficient jump shooters in the NBA. He's 11th in assists in the entire NBA at 7.4 per game. He's 12th in steals, and in 12 games without De'Aaron Fox this season, he's averaged 19 points and 10 assists. He's a 41% career three-point shooter on 5 per game. And it just such a stupid move. Like, the Kings really sacrificed a 21-year-old who might already be their best player to try and get into the play-in when they're the 13th seed in the West. And the guy they acquired, Sabonis, who is a really good player, and I don't want this to sound like criticism of him, doesn't really fix some of their main issues. They hurt their shooting and they hurt their defense. And their defensively has been one of their biggest issues. It really doesn't make sense to trade Haliburton, a guy who's such a good decision maker, who's still so young, who's under contract for 3 more years at $4.2 million, $4 million, and $5.8 million. Then he's a restricted free agent. You have him for this year and at least 6 more years on probably a pretty good contract, at least for the next 3. And they just traded him for Sabonis, and it just really doesn't make sense to me. If we think of Sabonis on the Kings and think about this trade, a bit more calmly and a bit more rationally, I think there is still some exciting potential there because Sabonis is a good player. He averages 19 points a game, 12 rebounds, 5 assists. I think, maybe this helps De'Aaron Fox out a little bit, though when Tyrese Haliburton isn't on the floor, Fox isn't really a better player. He's less efficient, so maybe it's like a mental thing or something, like a Jedi mind trick. I really don't know. Maybe Sabonis' passing helps him out, 5 assists a game, but he also averages 3 turnovers a game and likes to hold the ball. And it just also doesn't make sense from a roster construction. Some will say, they had too many guards. Well, Haliburton was their best guard, and he's not the one you want to trade. And then now their starting lineup, they have to start Harrison Barnes at the 3 and have Sabonis at the 4 and Rashawn Holmes at the 5. They also traded Buddy Hield, who they'd been looking to trade for a while and had been unhappy. But if you're getting Sabonis, Buddy Hield is the type of player you want to pair with him because he can space the floor out. But maybe like Fox Sabonis pick and roll, I've heard. I mean, you can't switch that, but you can just go under because Fox isn't a very good 3-point shooter, and neither is Sabonis. It doesn't make sense. And the Kings, they're the 13 seed in the West. Like, they're not even close to the playoffs. They're maybe a bit close to the play-in, but they're still at least a couple games back from the Pelicans, who got McCollum and who got better. At best this season, they're sneaking into the 10th spot in the play-in and getting knocked out in the play-in. That's the best case scenario for this season. And next season, how are they going to be any better? Like, maybe there's a little bit of an internal improvement, but their defense is still going to stink unless they make some other moves. They're not going to be a good shooting team. And if you're not that, maybe they have good paint scoring, but that's just really not going to be enough. It doesn't really make sense from the Kings' point of view at all to trade Haliburton, who's a guy who is a lot of what they needed and is just a really, really exciting young player who, at worst is like a borderline all-star for them, who averages like 17 points and like 8 assists for like the next 6 years, which is super valuable. And he's the guy they should have been building around. There's also the cost of not being maybe a bit better this season and not maybe looking to tank and getting a high pick. How much better would the Kings look if they're building around Haliburton and, a high pick this year, and maybe you keep Fox or maybe you trade Fox. It just really doesn't make sense from Sacramento's point of view to trade Haliburton. And then for the Kings, not for the Kings, for the Pacers, this is an absolute steal. You get Tyrese Haliburton, a young player, which is like, this is by far the best they could have done for Sabonis. And yeah, Sabonis is a really good player, 2-time All-Star for them, provided a lot of inside scoring. They really ran their offense through him, but they get a young guard in Haliburton. they break up the Sabonis Turner front court, which was never an ideal fit, and they give Haliburton a pick and roll partner in Turner, where maybe you see what he can do now with a bit more of an offensive role. I think their backcourt, if they're three guards, are Haliburton, Brogdon, and Duarte. That makes a lot of sense because they can shoot. And, Haliburton and Brogdon are really good playmakers. Plus, they're going to have a high pick this year because they've blown it up a little bit. They traded LeVert. Warren is still injured. So, you think of a lineup where it's Haliburton, Turner, Duarte, high pick this year, Isaiah Jackson, who's looked promising. And then they also get Buddy Hield, who they could keep as a spot-up shooter and to provide spacing, or I'm sure they could flip him. I mean, his contract is decreasing, even though it is a lot of money. But, there have been teams who have been interested in him, like the Lakers. So for the Pacers, this is just a home run to get a player in Haliburton for Sabonis, which is just a great return. And from the Kings, I just don't understand why they would trade their best young player, someone who's 21, to look to win now. Even though, what is the ceiling of this team? It's not that high. It just doesn't make sense. But anyways, thanks for watching. Leave a like and subscribe.